a monster.
I'm your number one fan.
Now clear your minds. Knows what scares you. It has from the very beginning.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
It's been informed that zombies have entered the building. They're at the door. They're coming in.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Midnight Monster Corner podcast. I'm your host as always, Corey, and alongside me is my good pal Tony. What's going on, brother?
Not much, bud. How you doing?
I've been good. Been good.
Yeah,
Living life.
same here. I feel like we haven't sat down and recorded in a while, so it's good to be back at it.
It's been a minute. We've always had some past couple months. We've had some conflicting stuff happening.
Yeah, that's per the norm. I mean, it happens. So
Life.
yeah, life happens. Life always happens.
We're back.
We are back.
So we did Hereditary last time. Ari Aster's first film.
First
And
feature.
Tony, what are we doing tonight?
We are doing his follow-up film, Midsommar, which came out in 2019.
Yes. Yeah, I was actually you're the one that kind of turned me on to both of his films.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do the reviews, and you didn't hesitate at all.
Not at all, man. I'm completely on board with that. Definitely looking forward to covering Hereditary and Midsommar, considering they're well, I don't want to jump the gun on that, but they're just so interesting, both the films, and in different ways and in a lot of similar ways as well. So I can't wait to dive into this one and kind of talk about the nuance and things that are going on in this one. Because he's just, like I said, if one thing I can pull from Ari is that he has the attention to detail, and the little things that he puts in, the little details he puts into his films are just fantastic, and really make for multiple watches, not just a one-time thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's one thing you can definitely pull from both of his films.
Yeah, that's what I got from this film. I sat down with it the first go round, and I watched it. And this is a film that it really does make you think. It really does. I had to think about it for a couple days. And then I even went back and, I had to watch it for a second time as well, and just, get a feel for it again. And it kind of cleared my head a little bit on some things, but I don't know. And I'm not puzzled by no means, but I'm more captivated by the way this film makes me feel.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And we're going to dive into that, because I really want to talk about that and get your take on it as well.
Yeah. I'm very much looking forward to it, man. So you wanna just jump into the basic plot, and then we'll dive right in.
Yeah. Do you want to cover it? You want me to?
Like I said, man, you're good if you're up for it.
Okay. So basically, the storyline follows a young woman that you meet early on in the intro of the film. Her name is Danny, and she goes through a pretty traumatic situation really fast. It happens. It's in your face quick. And pretty much from there, it just seems like her life is kind of in a turmoil and a downward spiral. And then she's brought into a situation where it's almost like she grows from it and becomes something else. So it's a story about a character who's in a troubled situation and ends up becoming something different, almost kind of like character development. And along the way, there's just really interesting characteristics and even cultural things that go through this film as well. You're basically on a journey to see her growth, really.
Mhm.
And I just kind of want to lead the storyline there because, folks, we will be spoiling the piss out of this film. So
Got to get the
So,
disclaimer out the way.
we're gonna be hitting little small details throughout this film. So recommend you stop right here. And I gave you the quick synopsis, and go and actually watch this film because we like it. I guess I'm hoping that that's a safe thing to say here. I know I liked it. I think Tony likes it. So go check it out, folks, and then come back to us, and then
Definitely.
join in on conversation.
100%.
No, so with that, Tony, the intro,
Mm.
it's very up your alley, isn't it? Very dark and dour
Dower.
intro.
Oh yeah. Yes. Ari and his misery porn.
Oh
He
my
has a
God.
way he has a way of taking traumatic experiences and just heightening the emotion
He,
and
he has a way to honestly make the audience uncomfortable.
both right.
And
Uncomfortable.
I was in that scene, I was uncomfortable. I was like,
I
oh,
kind of wish, all right, so I was thinking about it when I was watching this film. I really wish that I actually saw both of these in theaters when they came out. I feel like it would have been an amazing experience to be with a crowd of people and experiencing everything that's laid out before us firsthand in the theater. That would have
mhm.
been amazing, and I kind of wish I had that opportunity. I never did. I never got a chance to, but man, it would have been awesome just to experience that with a group of people.
Yeah.
Just to see their reactions and I can imagine I kind of like to think of myself like Ari kind of being in like a test screening or something and being in the audience with people not knowing that he's there or something like that and just gauging their reactions based on what they're seeing.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm sure that would have been if it did indeed happen. I'm sure that would have been fun.
Yeah.
But he has a way, to go back to what you were saying. He has a way of making these really traumatic, just heart wrenching, gut wrenching scenes just all the more uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And it's almost like, oh, you just you get chills and um, I don't know. He has a way of bringing that emotion out of you. At least for me, and I think to your point as well, buddy. I mean, I think he kind of gauged or kind of got the same reaction out of you watching this.
Yeah.
Because when it happens, and when you see her, and you feel so bad for it, and they set it up so perfectly where you feel so bad for her character because she's trying to reach out to the people that are supposed to care about her and love her, but
Mhm.
she's getting nothing. So she almost feels like she's alone and can't depend on anybody or can't.
But
She needs
that's
that emotional support, but it's not there, and that's a running theme throughout the movie.
yeah.
Um,
Well, and to what you're saying is, so I think she does come from a normal family, right? Like her mom and dad are probably like they don't really explain that, but from what I get a feel that her mom and dad were probably the typical suburban family, you know? I think
Parents,
her sister was the screwed up one, but
right?
she dwelled on that and honed in on that
Yeah,
because deep down inside, her sister's screwed up life was kind of rubbing off onto her in a sense, you know?
yeah,
And like to your point, the boyfriend's supposed to be there to support her, and he does, but he doesn't really want to, and
right.
you can definitely feel that as an audience member. I
Feel
really
that.
I really like that you as an audience member get that feeling. That's really good. That cinematography and writing right there. That's
Like I said,
perfect.
well, with Ari, you're just realizing how much of a brilliant filmmaker he is with the camera
Yeah.
shots and
Yeah.
setups, and I mean, he has a beautiful transition shot when Danny's in the apartment with her boyfriend Christian and his friends, and I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but when I just want to talk about the shot because I love it. It's an overhead shot, and it transitions from her being struck by the emotion of losing her family, and then she runs to the bathroom, and it transitions to her being in the bathroom of a plane, and it's just a beautiful shot.
Yeah,
Love it.
it's almost like boom, 6 months later,
Right, yeah, because
there you are.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's brilliant. I love the way he does that. He finds ways to get these wonderful shots, and you can tell he takes his time to set up the equipment, and he knows, he does his homework. He knows what he wants out of a shot. I'm sure he has the same cinematographer, and that they're always on board with the shot composition and everything. I mean, because there's a fluidity to his films too that just it seems to carry on, and I hope it just he never loses that, because I love it. His films feel like his films. They don't feel like anyone else's films, more or less. I mean, they feel like they have his stamp on them, and he has a style, and I gravitate toward his style. I love his style. When you first see Danny, she's trying to reach out to her sister. Her sister will not, get back with her. She wrote a very vague message about being gone from this world, and mom and dad are coming too. And it's freaking Danny out, of course, because she knows he has a history of depression, and she wants to reach out to her sister and see if she's okay, her parents too, but no one's answering. So she's flipping out. So she calls her boyfriend, Christian, who is hanging out at the bar with his friends, talking about, they're trying to convince him to break up with her because, he's miserable. He doesn't like, he's not getting anything from the relationship. And you can tell he's just going along with it because he doesn't have the guts to break up with her. He almost feels like he can't bring himself to do it, even though it's going to be a beneficial thing for him because he's not fully invested in the relationship. So his friends are basically trying to talk him out of it, because they're planning a big trip to Sweden for the festival that's going to be going on. That one of the friends is from Sweden and is bringing his friends to the festival as part of his group. So he's like, his friends are like, oh dude, you got to break up with her before you get up there. There's going to be so many Swedish women that are going to be all over you, and this is that. So they're trying to convince him, and he's like, going back and forth with it. And all of a sudden he gets a call from Danny, and she's sobbing and screaming and just all on the phone. And all of a sudden you just get a shot of what happened, and what happened is, oh man, it gives me chills. It gives me chills seeing that whole scene transpire, and seeing the line from the gas tank from the car in the garage to, her parents' room, and it's taped under the door, and they're basically killed with carbon monoxide from the car. And
didn't she have it like taped to her face?
Then she had it taped to her face, which is a haunting shot of her dead body with that on her face. And it transitions from that on, she's on the floor, and it transitions to the computer where she sent that last message. It's just brilliantly shot, man. He just has a way. I just can't explain it. It's just a way of impacting you with the scene. Yeah. And just like this, there's always that scene, that shocking scene in a Ari film, and he actually has two pretty shocking scenes in this one. Well, I wouldn't even say two. There's multiple scenes that you're like, holy shit, in this one. But I'm talking about the money shot scene, like the decapitation in Hereditary, and he builds on that, and it's quite effective, man. It really is. You get the sense of like her just completely like trying to hold on to something, to have something to not relate to, but just to let out all her anxiety and all her sadness and despair. But Christian's barely there. Like, he's there, but he's there, his body's there, but mentally he's like checked out. And you can kind of tell that when the scene where he's trying to console her and he's looking off. Like, how do you console that? And he's not 100% in it, but he feels like it's his obligation to. Yeah. So it comes off kind of haphazardly.
That's the thing. Like, it's really, I wouldn't say it's sad. I mean, I guess it is kind of sad, but the thing is like, these are college kids, like to Christians, probably thought process is, I've got my whole life ahead of me, and yet here I am with this pile of mess,
consoling this truly damaged person. I mean,
she needed a lot more. She needed a lot more help than those group of guys. She needed doctors and stuff.
Yeah, which it is said that she's majoring psychology in this movie, so
Yeah.
that's something to remember. Um, but like I said, you feel like this girl's lost everything. I mean, she does have a friend she calls in the beginning, and maybe she's not completely alone, but she just lost her parents, her sister. I mean, her family's gone. I mean, she's inconsolable, and a wreck for a long period of time. So
Hmm.
Christian, I guess, feeling guilty and not wanting to leave or break up during this time, and he invites her along with the group. And I just love how cowardly he is. He kind of tells the group, he's like, "Yeah, I invited her, but she's not coming." And they're just staring at him, and he's like, "Yeah, just so you know, I invited her." And you could tell, like, he's just not saying like, "Yeah, dude, I invited her, she's coming." Like, he just can't do it. Like, he's slow, and that's a running theme with him. He just doesn't have the gall to say what he wants and do what he wants. He kind of just is aloof and just kind of goes along with the flow, and it kind of it pays off in the end with him, when what happened happens. But you can tell he just has no backbone,
Yeah.
and he just kind of like hey, like, I invite her, and she's not going to come though. And then all of a sudden it's a gradual thing where he's like, "Oh yeah, she's coming." By the way, oh, I don't care if you guys are cool, or it doesn't matter if you guys are cool with it or not. And they're
Yeah.
just like,
He didn't even ask. Like that
no,
was
he
the
didn't
thing.
ask for anything. He just kind of like, it just kind of happened. And
Which
I just
I
love the way.
which to the Swedish guy, I mean, he's probably like, hey, the more the merrier.
Right,
I
yeah.
think
Well,
I think secretly he already had plans for her.
that's the thing with that, man. It kind of alludes that he kind of did, in a way. I mean, when we
I think
learn,
he had the whole time. I think he had kind of a thing for her,
yeah, oh yeah,
if you will.
100%, 100%. And like I said, the main reason they're going, the reason they're going is for one of the friends is doing a thesis on the rituals and what they do during the solstice, and what the festival's all about. And, he's doing a thing for his for his major,
Hmm.
and all the other guys are just pretty much along for the ride. They just want to have fun and goof off, and they think it's going to be a
Even
big party.
Christian at
Yeah,
first.
yeah. And that's another thing. We'll get to that when we get to
Hmm.
it. Yeah. So we have Pele, who is the Swedish exchange student who is with the group. That's pretty much doctoring them into everything, kind of explaining what's going on and this and that, but not fully explaining what's going on because they don't know 100% of what's happening.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I do want to get into that too because I think I think he doesn't tell them basically the subject matter,
yeah,
but in all reality, he he has a full belief in this because this is his heritage and his culture.
yeah, it's the
You
culture.
know.
Yeah, 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 and that's a theme with this movie as well, is culturalism and what you're used to in society and what a different society is used to, what's culturally relevant and what's acceptable. And there's even a brilliant line where Christian says, well, I don't want to jump on that yet because we're not there yet. We want to kind of gradually get to that point, but yeah. So they make the trip, and they get to Sweden, and I love when Pele meets his friend. I think his name is Olaf or something. I can't remember. It's something like that.
Yeah.
And as soon as like he meets them, he was an exchange student, I guess, in England, and he's brought
Mm.
two friends from England to the solstice as well, or to the festival as well, and and as soon as they get together, they start doing drugs and hallucinogens, and oh my god,
These
dude,
people were big on hallucinogens.
oh wow, dude, the whole trip was just amazing. Like,
I really like the guy sitting on the background. I forget his name. What was his name?
the
The goofy
jokester,
guy? Yeah, the
Mark.
jokester.
His name was
Mark,
Mark.
yeah. He's like He's like, what was it? So he turns and he's like, oh fuck, new people. I can't do new people right
I
now.
can't handle new people right
I'm
now.
just gonna lay down. And he's like, oh fuck, guys, lay down. This feels so
He's like,
great.
He's like, will you guys please lay down with me? Please. No, my favorite thing with him was he asked Christian what time it was. And Christian's like, oh, it's like 7 o'clock or 7 p.m. or something like that. He's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. It's daylight. It should be dark. He's like, no, it doesn't get dark. And he's like, that's not right, man. He starts flipping out about it. He can't handle it. And that's when he starts to gradually start to really, really freak out.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't handle this. I gotta lay down. That whole scene was fantastic. I love the tripping scene.
Yeah,
So good.
the tree moving and breathing. That was cool.
So
And then
cool.
I think didn't she look down and she saw grass growing through her hand or something?
Through her hand, yeah.
That was really cool.
really, really cool. And then she flips out and she just starts running. But the trigger with that is when he says, you guys are like my family and this and that. That's the key word that jolts her, and she gets up and she starts flipping out. She can't handle it.
Which leads me to believe that he had kind of ulterior motives for her because he knew what kind of a mental state she was in.
Yeah.
You know, that because the whole village that they're going to check out is family oriented.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like a cult. Yeah. I mean, it's the
It
feeling
is.
Yeah.
It is, but
So,
it's a cult that has been around for what, centuries?
mhm.
You know, and it's been pretty much untouched from the outside world.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They barely had any gas powered vehicles. They didn't have any. Did they? I don't think they had electricity. Did they?
No, they did, because at one point this girl said that the kids were going to watch Austin Powers, which I thought was hilarious. I
Yeah.
thought that was great.
Which, you know, to my surprise, you almost kind of take it, because I almost looked at this village kind of like the Amish a little bit, and I get
Well,
maybe
yeah.
because that's the feel I get. It feels like an Amish village or something.
Right. Well, and you totally would have got that feel if it wasn't for that one scene, that one dialogue,
Yeah.
or one piece of dialogue that said. And of course, they take public transportation to get there and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
But
not
well, I
completely.
mean, but I believe there's and this, I guess this is another reason why I kind of feel maybe it was influenced by the Amish a little bit or something, because like I believe when you're in the Amish village and stuff, you reach like a certain age, you're
Yeah.
allowed to go to the outside world to test the waters.
Yeah. That's
And
very.
if you choose to live in the outside world, then you're shunned against from the town that you're from and your family.
Right.
Pretty much like you can never go back there, you can never see them again. So
Except for in this, it's the opposite, because they farm people out as
they want
exchange.
them to go out and bring
Yeah.
others back in. Again, it's part of their culture.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
I don't know, but I mean, to me, watching a film about Austin Powers, this basically they're very cultural. They're very almost biblical, like in a sense.
Almost,
They're
yeah.
not
They're very nature loving, and
right.
they
And I would feel that they would shun against watching Austin Powers.
Yeah, it is kind of curious that, like I said, it made me laugh just because
Mhm.
of it's Austin Powers, but they're letting the kids watch Austin Powers, which I thought was funny. But in the context of it, it doesn't really make too much sense to have that going on. But I don't know.
Maybe
But
Ari just loves Austin Powers.
right, the cool thing is a lot of the plot of the movie is spelled out in the building that they're staying in. A lot of the things that happen are on the walls, and you see
Mhm.
when they pan over and you see the shots on everything. That's like everything that's going to happen in the movie is spelled out already, which
Yeah.
is really fascinating.
I noticed that in the blanket.
Yeah.
When they showed the blanket and you're going from shot to shot on the blanket,
Yes, dude.
it's
Yeah.
exactly what happened to Christian.
Exactly what happens to Chris. Yep.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. It's
Is this a pubic hair?
Yeah. So gross, dude. Oh god. But what I love about this is this film mostly shot during the day.
Mhm.
But it's one of those rare instances, a horror film shot mostly during the day. Like that's a very rare thing. You don't normally get that. But Ari effectively keeps that atmosphere even with the daytime shots.
Yeah.
He's so good. He's so good at keeping like a steady atmosphere and like I said, harking back to the camera shots and everything like that, and the setups and everything. Like he knows how to do it, and it's remarkable to see him do that during the day. I mean, it's really impressive when you really think about it. In a technical aspect, it's really impressive.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I really love coming from Ari and this film and everything is it's true horror.
Hmm.
It really is. Because this shit can happen. This can really, I could see this actually happening.
Well, it's situational horror in a way too, where you as the viewer, like you ask yourself, what would I do in that instance? And I've heard
I did
people,
ask myself that.
right? I've heard people complain like, "Oh, I'd get the fuck out of there if I saw shit like that going on." I would get, but I'm like, where are you gonna go? You're out in the middle of nowhere with a cult. Like they have people watching you, and say, where are you gonna go? You're not gonna get away.
Yeah.
Like,
Why don't you ask what was his name? Peter?
yeah.
Why don't
If
you ask
you,
Peter?
like I said, if you try
That
to
guy
get
ended
away,
up in a chicken coop with his lungs outside of his body.
yeah, it was a blood eagle. What they did to him,
Yeah.
that was really cool.
He
It's
just
fucked
fucking
up, but it's really cool.
was he still alive?
He was still alive when that was going on. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why it's fucked up. But yeah, dude, like I just think it's fascinating that he's able to capture all this atmosphere during the day. And like I said, I can't remember what percentage of the movie was shot during the day, but it was overwhelmingly a high percentage. Because there's a couple of nighttime shots, of course, but the majority of the movie is shot during the day. I think it was like
Yeah.
80%, 80% or something like that. So yeah, that's a rare thing. You don't get that very often.
Mhm.
So I think that's pretty fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, it was yeah. I mean, all the dancing and stuff. It was like I said, it's very cultural,
Oh,
you
100%.
know.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you said, it's very captivating that there's daytime shots versus nighttime shots, you know.
Mhm.
I like
It's
that.
to me, it's very Wicker Man, and I know this movie's been compared to Wicker Man, but I mean,
So,
I watched Wicker Man probably about a good month and a half, 2 months ago, and it's very similar, man. You could tell
so
there
sad
was
what
a lot.
happens to Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, not that Wicker Man, not the bees, no, the original classic with Sir
Yeah.
Christopher Lee.
Yes.
Yes, I mean, I definitely could feel the similarities there, 100%.
Oh yeah. I told you I got that feel. And
Yeah,
honestly, that's what I thought they were going for.
right. And it's no big like surprise. It's no big like, oh, I'm pulling this. No, a lot of people know that this is very influenced by Wicker Man.
Mhm.
Uh, so it's not. It's
When you
not.
when you first when you first watched this film, did you think they were going the witch aspect?
Um,
Like kind of like sacrifice ritual type deal?
I felt that was coming. Yeah, I did.
I
I
mean,
did feel
in a
that.
sense, they kind of did that.
Yeah, definitely. Which is funny when you hear about what Aster what their original plan was is just to make a kind of like a hostile type movie where these backpackers come to Sweden and it turns into more or less a slasher film. But I think I think I think Ari changes. He's like, no, I want to make this like a extended horror breakup film and and a movie about a toxic relationship that really both parties aren't willing to resolve. And I want to see the dynamic of that and how that breaks down in a horror environment. And I think it was a good call on that part. I mean, because as much as I love slasher films, I champion a slasher film anytime, any day. But with Ari, I mean, with his technique and his style, I really believe that he was able to get more out of it by changing the plot and changing the script up a little bit. And this actually worked out really well. Um, this type of story, I mean, because there's a lot of metaphor there and there's a lot of symbolism there, and you get that throughout the film as well.
Mhm.
So I think it was a good revision, and it was smart on their part to do that. Um, yeah, there's a lot of foreshadowing in this too. A lot of foreshadowing when Pele tells. So when they're at the bar in the beginning and they're trying to convince Christian, like, "Hey man, come out, come out, come out," and Pele just makes this offhand remark. He's like, "Yeah, man, there's a whole bunch of Swedish women that you could impregnate," and I'm like, "Uh-oh." We find out later that was foreshadowing, which like that whole courtship and everything like that was oof, very, 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 very fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's incredible how that led up to what happened. Um, but yeah, that's not the only thing. There's multiple instances of foreshadowing in this as well.
Yeah, I noticed that the second go round there's quite a few foreshadowing sequences. Yeah. You want to talk about that whole situation there? Oh, you want to talk about when they first get there?
Oh, when they first get there and they're
Yeah.
making introductions and everything like that, and they're just seeing how
Everyone's all sweet and nice about everything.
Oh yeah. Well,
Well,
you bring them in with kindness, and I'm sure they are kind.
Well,
I mean,
you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say this. Like, so you get a feel like these people are like bad people, they're murderous, stuff like that. They really don't want the outside world to know about them because let's face it, they end up do either people join them or they get killed. Let's face it, that's what happens. But I don't believe they're murderous.
well,
I believe that they believe in their own way that that's not murder in a sense.
well,
You know,
that's why when you tackle religion and horror, that's the most terrifying things because when people are so they believe in something so much and they're willing to sacrifice and kill and that's true horror. I mean,
or even kill themselves.
right, or do that. Yeah, I mean, 100%. I
Yeah.
mean, if they believe in something so much that they're able to us in the Western world, when we see things like that, we don't understand it because I think Christian made the point of saying, "Hey, we when our people get old and stuff, we stick them in homes and stuff like that, and they're doing something completely different. I'm sure they find that weird in retrospect that they see what we do to our elderly and what happens there. I mean, there's a breakdown in culturalism there, and
Mhm.
um, it's just like it's a big running theme throughout the movie because when you see the lead up to that scene is when there's this two older people in the group and they're basically should I just get into it, dude? I mean, so they're basically
Let's talk about it.
let's talk about it. Okay. So they're basically led to this giant cliff after a ceremony where they're
Like the next
respected.
day,
Right.
they've only been to this village for a day, so they're not led to know anything about what's about to happen.
Right, right. Well, that's one character, Josh, who is the one doing the thesis on everything that's going on in the ceremonies. He asked Pele, he's like, "Wait a minute, is this?" And Pele's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, so he knows what's going to happen, but he doesn't let anybody else know what's about to happen, which is kind of fucked up if you really think about it.
Yeah.
Like, kind of prepare them for what they're about to see, but he doesn't do that. Neither does Pele, and they both know what's happening.
Yeah.
So they don't give anybody any forewarning or any time to brace themselves on what they're about to see. But basically, oh my god, this scene is so fucking awful, man.
You would have thought that Pele would have told Danny, hey, why don't you stay back? You might not want to see this,
Yeah.
something. But I mean,
But I think, like you
he
said earlier,
broke her a little bit more
yeah. What
to
she's
sucker
seen,
her in, I think.
she's dealt with so much tragic, and this is that. I'm sure he felt like this is nothing compared to what she's already dealt with. I mean, this is something she could be able to handle. Especially if I want to acclimate her and bring her into our group and our society.
That's not acclimating. That's just throwing her in.
I mean, pretty much, yeah. Which they say the best way to learn how to swim is just throwing someone in the deep end, and that's pretty much what happens. I mean, in a sense, I mean, But these two, I mean, they're celebrated, they're respected. Everybody's when they have their meal, everybody is outside in this really, really ornate table that crisscrosses. It's really cool, and everybody's sitting on one side, and they wait for the elderly. I don't know if they're a couple or if they're together. They almost seem like they're together, like they're a couple.
I think they're together, but I believe they're 72 years old.
Yeah, which
Both of them are 72.
right to this organization is the end of their life cycle.
Yes.
That's when they should pass on. Which is funny because I've seen some people in the overall group that look a little bit older too, but they're still hanging around. So I don't know. I just thought that was pretty funny. But
they've had too much hallucinogens.
I guess so. So they're respective of them. They wait until they sit down before everybody sits down, which is a sign of respect. They are very, appreciative. You can tell they're just appreciative of the life that these people have led and have lived. And when they're taken to the cliff, they sit in chairs and they're actually taken to the cliff. They don't have to walk or anything like that. They're taken there by the group. Well, so oh man, in the build up to the scene when the first one is the lady, I don't know her name. She's sitting there and she almost like makes kind of like eye contact with Danny, and the shot is beautiful because it's like an overhead shot and you see Danny watching and anticipating the tension's there. You could feel everybody just anticipating this, and you as a viewer, you're kind of anticipating like, oh shit, this is about to happen. And she just takes a dive and she hits the ground, dude, and it's just brutal as hell.
Well, she smacks her face like on this huge rock.
Yeah, dude, the gore, like that's when the gore heightens in the movie, and you're like, oh shit, because up until this point, there's no real gore or anything like that happening, and you're just like, oh wow, like damn, dude, that just fucking happened. And then when the man does it, when he makes the plunge,
he does it so wrong.
It's even more fucked up because he doesn't land the way he's supposed to land. He lands on his legs, and his legs are all fucking mangled.
His legs just get blown out from under him.
Dude, it's fucking nasty, man. Oh,
what I really love is like the fact that like, well, it was almost like a moment of kind of calm because she did it, and Danny, of course, you got the two European people, they're freaking the fuck out.
The British couple, yeah.
Well, and then you've got Danny over there. She's like in shock of what she just saw, and her friends are around her freaking out, and Pele is trying to like just calm them down. And then everyone's like, look, and then here he comes.
He comes. It's like fucking terrible, dude. It's so bad. And he doesn't die right away, so he's suffering. Of course, his legs are just completely mangled. So there's a guy that comes over with this huge fucking mallet, and it's almost like a carnival.
Multiple people.
Yeah. And then
he's just like taking a turn.
He comes over and tests your strength. Like he just bam crushes this dude's head, and it's so gnarly. It's gnarly as hell.
It was multiple people just like fucking wailing on this guy's head.
Yeah, and after like the second whack, he's like, okay, the guy's pretty dead, and they just keep whacking at it. They just keep going at him. I'm like, that's just overkill.
I wrote down that Ari Aster must be a Cannibal Corpse fan.
Oh, dude, Hammer Smash Face.
Hammer Smash Face.
Oh yeah, absolutely, dude. I mean, it's and to your point, like the British couple just flipping out. They don't want to go. They're ready to go. They're like, oh, we gotta go. The fuck, this is fucked. Like you people are fucking crazy, and this is that. Like pretty much berating them, and just, oh my god, that's not what you want to do. You're surrounded by them. So I understand you're freaked out and this and that, but you don't piss them off.
I like how no one, like in that moment though, no one is consulting with Danny.
Right.
No one was.
Well, it's almost like they expected. It's almost like they expected Pele and Olaf to tell them about what's going to happen, and they were kind of shocked. They reacted that way because I guess they figured that they knew what was going to happen, and I guess that communication was not, handled, and they were kind of, because you could tell the leader, that lady was like trying to calm them down, like, hey, no, this is okay, it's part of our culture, it's what we do, this and that. Like, she wasn't, it seemed to me like she wasn't fully expected, or wasn't ready to do that, or didn't expect to do that.
Mhm.
So it's almost like there was a miscommunication there between, which it's kind of hard to miscommunicate something like that. That's that serious.
Yeah. Oh, I
Especially
failed to
when,
mention this.
yeah, two people are going to kill themselves in front
Right
of
in
you.
front of you.
Yeah, just to give you a heads up, so you're in the loop.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
It's okay. They've outlived themselves. You could probably tell, like, the guy that landed on his feet, he was probably like, "Oh my god, this is such a terrible idea."
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What I really loved, though, was the fact that, like, as soon as he started hollering out in agony, the whole, like, everyone did. Everyone was like screaming in agony.
Right, because and that comes into play later too.
Yeah.
That comes into play later. They share the emotions and the experiences with everybody involved. Like, everybody is a collective unit. There's no individualism.
Yeah.
Everybody's one and the same. So, and I think it's cool how that plays into the rest of the film, and toward the end of the film as well. Um, Especially with Danny's character in the scene that we're definitely going to get into, because that scene is one of the more unique scenes and really telling scenes in the whole film. That's when you know, like, oh shit, I see what we're doing here, Ari. I know what you got going on here.
Mhm.
But yeah, so the British couple, I think Simon and Connie, they're ready to go. They're just like, fuck this shit. We're not in it anymore. Like, this was supposed to be a little vacation for us. We're ready to get back to England and just get away from all this crazy shit that's going on.
I like
And
I like how when they were walking back, fucking Mark wakes up from, like, his nap and he's like, "Looks like I missed all the fun."
yeah, he's like, of all the things to let me sleep through, I'm like, this guy's fucking terrible. He is, because he's like the only real comic relief you get in this movie. It's a pretty fucking straightforward film.
It
Like,
really is.
barely any comedy. The only comedy you do get is really from him. So I mean, when he pisses on the tree and they flip out on, like, holy
Yeah, that
shit!
shit was fucking funny.
Oh my god, dude! Oh, dude, because he pissed
They were like,
essentially.
"This is the tree of ancestors." He was like, "Your
Yeah.
fucking tree of ancestors is laying dead on the ground."
And the dude wanted to kill him. Like, he was
Yeah.
so pissed, he was ready to wring his neck. But yeah, dude, so they split up, which is fucked up, because they do split up after the ceremony, and they pretty much tell Connie that Simon took off without her, which is like, oh, that's bullshit. There's no way this dude, because they just got engaged. There's no way in hell this dude left his fiance there by herself. I don't care what happened or what scenario plays out in this and that. That's not happening. So
Yeah.
automatically she's like, that's not going to happen. And Danny's like, I don't believe that. Something's not right here. So she starts feeling like something's going on, and it's not all what it seems to be. But I guess Connie goes along with it anyway, because she just wants to get the fuck out of Dodge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At that moment now, so Connie and Peter are gone, and I think it was basically time to make dinner or whatever. And they're in there making, like, those chicken pot pie things or whatever the fuck they were making in there. Because they ended up taking Danny in there to help cook. And you see the one where the redhead takes, she makes a special one, you could tell. But it was her fucking pubes in it.
Yeah, because
It was basically like her way of giving herself to him, right?
right. So we have a character named Maya. I think her name is Maya, which they explain to her she has finally reached the age. Well, last year I think they said she reached the age to where she can mate. So now she has to find a mate, and she's got her hooks and eyes on Christian, which is Danny's boyfriend. So she goes through a ritual of trying to put a love spell on him. First by putting the thing under his bed, and then the pube pie. That's
Which is basically chosen him.
Yeah, right, to mate. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the elders have accepted that as the okay, you've been, because they pull him aside at one point and say, hey, you've been chosen to mate. With which I say there's not a lot of comedy, but the scene where he's like, yeah, I think I ate her pubes, That line had me fucking dying. I was crying laughing. Just
Well,
the way he said it.
the funny part is right before they go to eat, they're sitting there and they're like, "What happened to Peter and what's her name? What was her name? I forgot
Connie.
her name. Connie. Yeah, they were like,
Yeah.
"What happened to Peter and Connie?" And then Danny explains it, and then somebody's that jokingly was like, "Do you think we're eating them?" And then he pulls that fucking pube up. And Mark's like, "Is that a fucking pube?"
It's some shit. So, it's fantastic, dude. Like that scene fucking had me dying when he said that.
That's
Um,
hilarious.
but yeah,
But if you paid attention to that blanket, though, it shows that scene.
yes, it does. Yep. Hmm.
Yeah.
And that's the point in where he is transfixed and the love spell is complete. Um, and based on his mental state and all the shit that he's taking and stuff like that. But then it goes to show, like, Christian at the end of the day has no backbone. He won't tell anybody, no, I don't want to take that. He says once, he's like, oh, I already had a bad trip, and he tries to hand the drink back over to the girl, but he ends up keeping it anyway and drinking it, knowing full well that shit's kind of weird going on. There's something's going on.
Yeah.
And he pretty much bogarts like Josh, because Josh is real serious about doing a thesis on this, and he takes it very seriously. And then Christian just all of a sudden is like, "Hey, man, I think I'm gonna do my thesis on this too." And Josh is like, wow, man, really? Like, I love the dialogue. He's like, I'm really impressed, more or less than anything, like that you have the balls to do that with me right here. And this is nice. So you can tell he's so pissed, but the level of just cockiness from Christian just completely blowing him away. He cannot believe that he's doing the same or wanting to do the same thesis that he's doing, because he thought he was going to be the only one to do this.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, yeah, man, I'm open to collaborate with you and everything like that. And he's like, fuck you, man. Like, I can't believe you would do this. You knew what I was coming out here for.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could tell like Christian was starting to become kind of a dick. He forgets Danny's birthday. I mean, he's really not a good boyfriend. I mean, he's kind of like just a shitty dude. But that's the thing with this movie too. They don't play it off like he's a dick, as far as like mistreating her and like just like abusing her and this and that, and being emotionally abusive and physically abusive. Like, that's not happening. He's just like aloof and just like, he just doesn't like pay any attention to her in that regard. Like, he's not like a prototypical like dickhead boyfriend. He's more or less just like, he just doesn't know any better. He's just aloof most of the time.
I don't think he really cares.
Yeah,
It comes down to he just doesn't care.
Yeah, you can tell he's checked out too. And the scene that really punctuates that brilliantly is when Pele tells him like, "Hey, man, you do know it's Danny's birthday, right?" And he's like, kind of like, "Oh shit, like I can't believe I forgot." So he pulls like this little cupcake out, and it's brilliant. He's trying to light the candle while he's trying to sing to her happy birthday, and the candle just won't light. And I'm just like, yep, that's symbolism for you right there of this is not going anywhere. This relationship is completely like faltered. And that's perfect symbolism for that. I mean, he cannot, with whatever he can do, he cannot get that candle light. I'm like, that's perfect symbolism. I mean, get better than that.
I agree with you.
But yeah, you can tell Pele has taken a liking to Danny, and he feels like her worth is much more than what Christian seems to think that she is, and that he holds her in much higher regard than Christian does, and basically kind of weasel in on her at one point, to try to get
even kisses her at one point.
Yeah, get a kiss out of her. Mm-hmm. So because he tells her like, I lost my family too. Like, it was a tragic circumstance. My family died. They burned to death, and this and that. And that's why he's like, this community is a family to me. They embrace me. He's trying to explain to her like, embrace what you see in front of you, because this can be your new family. They will embrace you and give you that support that you're desperately craving. Because she's like almost like calling out for some sort of emotional support, and she's not getting any.
Well, and that's why I feel like that's why going back to like even the opening shots, she's just such a lost person. She doesn't know where she belongs. And this is why I said that I think We were talking about this the other day, you know, before we even recorded, and we were talking about it, and I said there's a lot of similarities between um what was the young boy's name in Hereditary?
Peter.
Peter
Mhm.
and Danny, you
Yeah.
know, because
Oh,
they
yeah.
haven't found their way. They don't know, they're lost. They don't know where,
Also,
yeah, they don't really know where to go. And I think this group makes her feel very accepted.
yeah.
And I would say it's almost manipulation, but it really isn't.
No, it's not.
She really wants to find something. She wants
Mm.
to find a sense of purpose and leave. I feel that she wants to leave her old life behind her because it's just nothing but turmoil and tragedy. And even though there's tragedy within where she's heading, there there's still a life after.
Yeah, there's almost like light at the end of the tunnel. Like
Really is.
the journey's gonna be a little bumpy, but at the end of the day, once you get to your destination, there's brighter pastures ahead,
Right.
and grass is greener on the other side. But the grass is not always greener on the other side. So, um,
Mhm.
yeah, you feel like she's at a point in her life where this is all she has now. I mean, she can't depend on anything else. Everything else is just letting her down, and
Right.
failing to live up to the support that she needs to carry on and and just have a life. And
Hmm.
she feels like, in a way, it slowly builds to where she feels like she can have a life in this society.
Well, you finally start seeing her being happy. You see her smiling. You see her dancing with the other girls and stuff, you know. She's starting to become happy.
Which that scene's great too, man. I love that scene when
Hmm.
they're she's basically on hallucinogens again, and her and the girls. So the premise is they have to get to be May Queen, which is the highest honor that you can get at this festival. You have to dance and dance and dance until you're the last person standing. Your stamina matters. So they have all these young ladies out there dancing and going and this and that. And once they fall, they stop. And then the one that falls has to leave, and then they continue, and it's all until the last person stands, and that's going to be your May Queen.
Hmm.
So she's, and I think it's really a telling scene too when she's dancing and she says, I don't speak Swedish, but she's understanding the other girl who is speaking Swedish to her. And then they start speaking it to each other, and that's more or less symbolism as, oh, she's being accepted and she's embracing this culture, and now she's feeling like a part of it.
Hmm.
And it's a wonderful scene. It's, I mean, it's one of those things, it's like you blink and you miss it when they start communicating back and forth, and she's like, I can't speak this, and then she starts talking and having a full conversation with her in Swedish. So
Yeah.
it's really, really cool. Not too many people would even, be like, "Hey, okay, that's cool. Yeah, I
Yeah.
understand what you're doing." But um, so I mean, she keeps dancing. They keep doing that, and eventually, Danny is the last one standing. She has made it.
Hmm.
She has become the May Queen,
Yep.
and they're over the moon about it. Like they love it. They're dressing her with the crown, and now she is the focal point. So now when she's standing, everybody else is standing until she sits down for everybody to start eating. Then
Hmm.
everybody starts sitting down with her, and it's a shine of respect. Like you have like become fully accepted in this society. And that's when the severed ties happen with Christian. That's when Christian goes off, and I know you want to talk about this scene, so please, the floor is yours, Corey.
No, I so well, okay. So before we get to that, one of the things that I really like is, you remember how I said she's trying to find her own way at this
Yeah.
point. She's trying to figure out where she belongs,
Hmm.
and it was almost kind of a snapping point because when she becomes May Queen and everyone's crowding around her and loving on her and stuff, and that's when Pele or whatever runs up and kisses her,
Yeah.
and then she sees her mom
Yeah,
for a
dude. Yeah.
split second, and it's almost like her old life has just left.
Yeah, and this is her new
and
life.
this is her new life. And I think that that's the moment she fully accepted it.
And I want to say one thing, and there's a brilliant shot when when they're carrying her and she's standing
Yeah.
and they're carrying her. If you look in the distance in the trees, there's a symbol of there's the face of her sister with the gas mask on. You can see it in the trees.
Wow.
I'd never noticed it until someone pointed it out in a review, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And I saw that, and I'm like, and I went back this time and watched the movie, and I actually saw it in the trees. I'm like, "That's haunting, dude." So
That's
not
cool.
only does she see her family there, but her sister's death portrait in the trees behind her as she's being carried off and stuff like that. Like symbolism, dude. It's just, it's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that just goes to show right there. Once again, she's leaving her past behind her, and she's moving forward on with her life. And it
Fully
almost
accepting.
seems like she's happier at this point.
Yeah, fully accepting this new lifestyle.
Yeah. No, I want to. Yeah, you're right. I wanted to talk about what happens to Christian. There's just a really sad sequence of scenes for this poor bastard. Like, the first thing is they gave him this hallucinogenic tea.
Yeah.
And he goes to sit down at this dinner table, and everyone's sitting down. He's sitting next to this old guy, and he's just like he's like, what's happening?
He's just out of it, dude.
Yeah, and the old guy, without any hesitation, is just like,
And it just warps his whole
it
mind.
fucks him up.
Yeah, you see the ripples and,
Yeah.
and shit. He's just fucking completely burnt out at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, but then he goes off and he follows. What's her name again?
Maya.
Maya. Yeah,
Well,
he follows her.
They prepare her first because
Yeah.
when he gets in, so that whole scene, dude, is fucking insane. So he, do you want to say what happens here, or do you want me to get into that?
Go ahead, because it's
Okay. So he goes off into this temple, and they're getting him prepared. So they give him something. They put something in his mouth, and they say it's for vitality. And so he's got this robe thing on, and as soon as they open the doors, there's a line of naked women of various ages. I mean, and they're swaying back and forth, humming, and you could tell it's like almost like a chant. And there you see Maya laying on this bed of like, I don't even know. It was almost like a bed of like flowers and grass and stuff like that. Like they built it up, and she's laying there waiting to accept him. So they take off his robe, and you know what's going to happen. Like they're basically going to make them fuck, and
they're just gonna watch and
right, exactly. And oh my god, it's the most awkward sex scene you'll ever
moan more or less.
Oh my god. So you got to understand, this man's zonked out of his mind on hallucinogens, and this he's basically getting raped. I mean, I don't. He's not a willing participant. I don't feel. I mean,
Well, at this point, he was probably. I think in his mind he was like, because he was kind of looking around like, this is kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
And and then one of them gets up behind him and starts pushing on his ass.
Yeah. And just kind of going with it, just giving him the motion for the scene. It's so fucking weird, dude. The whole
Yeah, it really
and
is.
then the weirdest part is when all the women start moaning with her, and
they get down like in his face and start moaning with her. It's like,
and the thing that kills me is his face.
I have a hard time when my dog stares at me when I'm,
and you have this group of women who are completely nude and just moaning in your face while you're having sex with this girl. And
there was old ones in there with wrinkles and stuff too.
He is looking around like he is completely lost. Like his eyes, and I got to give credit to the actor. He sells it perfectly, because he really looks like he's completely like in awe of what's happening, and it's fantastic. It's amazing.
Yeah.
The whole build up to the scene itself, what happens, and then the lead up to Danny finding him in this position, and look, like she hears all the weird sounds, and she's like, "What's going on in there?" And one of the ladies says, "Oh, that's not for you."
Yeah, she's like, "Oh no, don't go over there."
She's trying to like persuade her not to go over there, but then he's like, "Oh, something's going on." So she goes and she looks through the keyhole and sees what she sees, and it just completely breaks her. Like, she is a wreck after this. Like, she's wanting to throw up. She's sobbing. She's just an emotional wreck. And the scene is beautiful because it leads. She goes back to I can't remember the giant like living area that they're in.
Yeah, it's just like one big bedroom.
It's amazing.
It really is.
The way
It's
it's built, the way it's articulated, everything is fantastic. But she goes in there and she's sobbing and crying, and then the women come in with her, and they stop with her, and they're moaning and crying in the same way she is, and they're making eye contact with her. So basically, they're saying, we're with you. We're going through this with you.
We're feeling your pain.
We're feeling your pain. We're 100% on your side, and we're all one. And she's getting that emotional support she's been craving the whole time, the whole movie. She's been looking for someone to reach out to and console her, and they're consoling her in the greatest way that you could possibly console a human being after seeing something like that. And it really is a beautiful scene. It's fantastically shot, well acted, from everybody involved, especially the girl that's like holding her face, like sobbing and crying with her articulation too, like at the same moment she is. It's brilliant the way it's done. And then she finally realizes, like, hey, this is what this, like you said, man, this is what I've been craving the whole time, and I finally have it in this group, in this society.
Yeah.
And I finally feel comfortable. Of course, not at the time because she's an emotional wreck at this point, but
Yeah.
she wants to accept that, hey, this is for me. This is what I've been craving. This is what I've missed my whole whole life. I mean, well, essentially after her parents are gone, because I kind of wish you kind of got a sense of their relationship before, but you really don't. But you could tell, like, you can tell, like, they're still her parents. I mean, they didn't abandon her or anything like that. They're still in her life, so I mean, this is just her. This has become her family. So she's fully accepted in the culture, and then Chris, when the deed is done, and they use him basically for he's a sperm donor, and he flips out and runs out of there, and the attention to detail, because they say that Maya's a virgin.
I love when Maya and him finish, because she's like, I can feel it inside me.
Yeah,
I can feel the baby inside me. No, what you're feeling is a cream pie.
and but no, I just thought it was funny because as a typical dude, he just, as soon as he sees that, he just takes off, fucking runs, it just bolts out of the picture. But it's like I said, attention to detail. It is said multiple times that she's a virgin, and of course, the actor that played Christian was fully committed, and I give him 100% props for this, to run out of that building completely naked with blood all over his dick, and because continuity. Yeah. So I give him 100% credit for that. That takes guts to do that. To be completely naked and in that situation. I mean, it's fearless as an actor to do something like that.
Yeah.
But he's running for his sanity at this point, and he sees the dude. He runs into like this barn or this stable, and he sees the dude in the blood eagle form with this shit out of his back, and that's when he's like, oh shit, people around me have been being killed, because they kill all their friends at this point.
He notices, he runs by like some crops, and notices like a fucking leg sticking up out of the ground.
Up out of it, yeah. And like all the people have just been slowly disappearing throughout the course of the film. and it's been all like, oh, they got away, like the British couple, they got away, or they took off, they went back home, nothing weird about that. And then his friends started disappearing, and he's like, well, it kind of makes sense because Josh kind of wanted to get all this information and then bail. So they're like, oh, he must have just stole the. They say he stole the talisman or the book that they had, and took off with it and stuff like that. So he's like, okay, that makes sense why he's gone. And then Mark was trying to hook up with this chick, and they're like, well, Mark hasn't been back yet. Where's he at? Oh, he must have ran off with that girl, and he's just not coming back yet. But they're not realizing, like, no, these people are getting picked off one by one.
But again, it's not. They're not murdering. They're not a murderous. Like
Well,
I believe they're not a murderous community per se. Yes, they're murdering people, but they're murdering people so that way their culture doesn't. No one finds out what they're actually up to, what
well,
their
essentially,
culture is.
they're murdering people for disrespecting their culture. The British couple disrespected them by cursing them out and saying that they're fucked up and this and that. So that was disrespect. So they felt obliged or justified in killing them. And then Josh was sneaking pictures of the sacred book and stuff like that, which he was told he was not supposed to do. Just going above and beyond to get more information and write a complete thesis about this society, which they did not. They didn't want. They said they were okay with it, but I think they were just going along with that and saying that just so he would do it, so they could, take care of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mark pissing on the tree, like he pissed everybody off. So I think they felt justified in what they were doing because these people were disrespecting their culture, and not taking the matter seriously enough, like everybody else seemed to do. Like Danny, as much as she was completely taken back by what she saw with the ritualistic suicide, she still was able to acclimate into the group and even go to the scene you were talking about when they were preparing the food and stuff like that. She actually was having fun and getting into it with everybody else, and she was enjoying herself. So the people that were being killed or killed off were people that were basically disrespecting them. And Christian was the last straw on that. I mean, him running off and trying to, ditch everybody and leave and stuff like that was the. I don't know if they planned on killing him. Well, no, they didn't. We basically find out what we find out. I mean, Danny had a choice at the end of the day.
Yeah, they ended up making her like basically kind of like Judgment Day almost,
Yeah.
between Christian and another person in the crowd
In the group, yeah.
because
But
they asked that because they asked for somebody to step up and volunteer. To be.
well, they had volunteers for two. One of the guys was off, the guy that brought the British couple,
Mhm.
and he volunteered. And then the guy that was pissed off for Mark pissing on a tree was the other volunteer. And then they had like a lottery system where they drew a ball and had a number, and it was this person. So he was another one that stepped up, and it was either between him or Christian, who was going to volunteer for the final sacrifice. Which that scene, dude, oh, that ending, man,
Mhm.
so fucking brutal, man.
Well, I like the fact that they drugged him to where he could just sit there and see what was happening around him.
Yeah,
He couldn't speak, he couldn't move. They paralyzed him.
yeah, in a bear costume.
They put him in a bear costume.
Not even a bear costume, but an actual bear. They put him inside a bear.
I love that. I love how they're walking through a field and there's just a random bear in a cage, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Is no one going to talk about the bear?"
So we're gonna, yeah, that's the British boyfriend. He's like, is no one gonna fucking talk about this bear that's just hanging out? So what's going on with that? Because there's this building that they see in the background,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, well, what's that about? And they're just kind of brushing off like, oh, that's nothing.
Sacred building that no
Sacred
one's allowed
building.
in.
Yeah, no one's allowed in. Don't go in there. This is that. So I was like, oh, that's going to come into play in a big way. And sure enough, it becomes our Wicker Man. Like they essentially, I mean, and I love how they're wheeling out all the people that have been sacrificed, all the people that have been killed, and they've been dressed up like Mark was dressed up as the fool because he had the jester hat on and everything like that. It was really cool how they did that, and then they properly set them up in each spot in the house. Like each spot was designed for this particular person for the final sacrifice and everything like that. And then of course Christian's in the middle with the bear out with the bear costume on, or with the inside the bear.
Yeah.
and it was really fucked up is there's the two volunteers, Olaf and the other guy, I can't remember his name. They give him something for the pain. They said this is for the pain, and they give it to him. And then when they light the fire, and everybody's how it's with the music and how the fire's gradually getting around everywhere, it's haunting, dude, hauntingly done.
Mm-hmm.
And then it really punctuates it when the fire gets on them and they just start screaming in pain, because obviously that did not help with the pain. They just said that to like calm their nerves or something like that, because it didn't help. They're yelling in agony because they're being burned alive. And then what's amazing is while they're screaming and in agony, everybody outside is screaming and flipping out and sharing that experience with them,
because they're feeling that pain with them.
They're feeling that pain, yeah. So there's a gradual theme throughout the whole movie, and it punctuates at the end too. I just think it's masterful, man. It's so well done.
It really is. Yeah, I can't agree more. It's everything about this film was well done. Beautiful shots. I really love the shots where he did the camera angles upside down.
Oh yeah,
that was really cool.
Shot we were talking about earlier with that transition with Danny.
Well, when he was when they're driving through like the countryside of Sweden or whatever.
Yep,
it's like he actually flipped the camera upside down and was going above the road. I was like, man, that's really cool.
Oh, I'm glad I checked on my notes, because even Christian's drink, out of every drink that was at the table, his drink was the only one different. It was red, and that was because there was period blood in it. Because even still, I'm like, his drink is completely different from everyone else's that went along. It's just small little details with the love, like the love spell that was going on. That's another
pretty gross.
Yeah, it's disgusting, dude.
These are some really gross ass people.
Oh man, it's so nasty.
I mean, just goes to show culture, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely, it's a difference in culture, man.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm sure this is taken to like a heightened degree for the film. I mean,
but with that being said, I mean that there could be villages out there that practice some stuff like this.
100%. It goes along with like cannibal films too. We talk about the cannibal film, the Italian cannibal films. Like, there's cannibal tribes out there. I mean, it's
and they have their own rituals and sacrifices.
They have rituals and sacrifices. Like, I mean, shit happens, man. The rest of the world's not completely westernized, and they don't fall into what is the norm for us, and what we consider just average. Like, it's not the case at all.
Yeah.
It's many different cultures and many different backgrounds people have, and some people are just accustomed to stuff like that. So there's a lot going on. With Ari's films, there's just always something going on, and there's more to it than meets the eye. Because I mean, people go into this film and just like, oh, this movie's weird just for weird's sake, or this movie's it's got a lot of weird shit in it just to put weird shit in. No, there's meaning behind it, and there's thought into this. I mean, it's not just a director putting shock value stuff in a film just to put shock value stuff in a film. Like, no, there's a gradual lead up to the story, and it's building, and it's completely intentional, and it's not just for shock value. So that's what I love about him, man. He has shocking scenes in his movies, but they're all earned because there's a overarching theme going on, and there's something building. And he just doesn't do it for shock's sake.
Yeah, he's a brilliant filmmaker. There's wonderful shots, and this movie is really well written and well executed.
Mhm.
You know,
As
and
well acted well.
well acted. Everything about this film is perfect. Like I can't believe like how captivating the scenes are, the shots are. You know, just them being in a field and going, sitting there tripping out. Those scenes were beautifully done.
Yeah.
We didn't really talk about it, but when she's fully dressed up and she's sitting at the table, she starts moving her hand up and down the giant throne of flowers. You can
Flowers.
actually see them moving and pulsating. Even when she's wearing them, you
Yeah.
can see like flowers on her head and stuff kind of opening up and stuff.
Like a mouth opening up. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's awesome, dude. It's so cool.
really.
It's so cool. It's
Even
such
though
a good
I'm not a fan of CGI by no means, but that's just,
digital effects. Yeah.
yeah, but that's really cool. Like,
It, stuff like
I,
that's cool. I'm much more partial to stuff like that being digitally enhanced than like gore.
yeah,
Like I'm fine with that. Like stuff like that, it makes sense.
yeah,
But for gore, I love that he kept it practical and he just did it right. He did it right. He knew exactly what he's doing. I don't remember any CGI gore effects in this movie. I mean, not that there was a lot of gore to begin with, but all of it was practical as far as I remember.
hmm
Um, there's no CGI anything, so I can appreciate that as a horror fan, as most horror fans do. We can all appreciate that because I don't know many horror fans at all that say, "Oh, I'd rather see CGI blood and effects and in gore." Like
yeah.
no one says that. So we all love the practicality of it. Harkens back to a simpler time and a better time.
One thing I wanted to pick your brain on: do you think the shot where what's uh what's Christian's friend, the guy that wanted to write the thesis? What's his name?
His name's Josh.
Okay, I thought it was Josh. Um, when he goes in and he's sneaking the pictures of the
Yeah.
book,
Oh, dude.
that scene. I mean, did you not get a Texas feel from it?
Oh yeah. It's haunting.
I mean,
Because the guy is wearing his friend's face.
right. The guy's wearing his friend's face,
Oh yeah.
and he gets smacked across the head with a hammer.
It's creepy as fuck, man. It
I
really
mean,
is.
that right there screamed Texas for me.
Yeah.
I
It was
bet you it was kind of a little nod.
the way it's shot is just very, very creepy.
Yeah.
I love that scene. But one thing we didn't really touch on, I wanted to mention real quick, was the Oracle in this movie.
Mhm.
The incest baby, as we call, as I called him, because he was, bred from incest and everything like that, and he was deformed because of
Mhm.
it. But they use the offspring of incest because they are deformed, but they're diluted and they don't have they're diluted as far as like their thoughts and stuff like that, so they're able to piece everything together and write everything out in a simpler headspace.
Mhm.
And I always thought, he was going to play an even bigger role in the movie, but he really didn't. He was only in a couple of scenes, and he wasn't too prominent in the film, and I was kind of surprised by that. Um, he really didn't have like an overarching, you know, like a situation involving him. It just didn't happen. It wasn't in the
Yeah.
movie that much, so I was kind of surprised by that.
Besides him watching the weird orgy that was going on.
Because like I said, to me, I'm not really much of a trailer watcher, but I did see him prominent on promotional material for this movie, so I thought he was going to play a bigger role. Just kind of like the same thing with Charlie in Hereditary. You think she's going to be a bigger part of the movie, like the actress herself, like she's
Mhm.
going to. Her presence was there in the movie, but seeing her physically in the movie, you thought there was going to be more to it. But
Yeah.
no, I think Ari's got a way of doing that too. That kind
Yeah.
of goes kind of unnoticed, maybe a little bit, where he kind of sets you up for expecting more out of a character, and then he kind of scales them back a little bit.
Yeah. But I mean, and just goes to show that, I mean, he didn't forget to add the little detail that where
No,
they talked about him,
he's not one
you know.
for forgetting details.
So
I
he wasn't
noticed.
he wasn't in the film long, the Oracle. He wasn't in the film long. He wasn't in many shots. But the thing was he was explained. So
Yes,
you knew who he was. He wasn't
exactly.
just some deformed
He
kid
wasn't just he
drawing
wasn't there.
pictures.
Yeah, exactly. He wasn't there with no backstory or anything like that. They fully fleshed out what he was and what he's doing, what his purpose was within the society. So I can appreciate that. Like he just was. It would have been something if he was just a random character and like, who the fuck is this? What's happening? Why is he deformed? Where's he coming from?
Yeah.
But no, they fleshed it out and
They explained it, and it stuck with you because you knew who he was.
yeah.
Yeah.
This movie's a trip, man.
Yeah.
It's a trip. It really is. It's something else, man. And right on par with Hereditary. I mean, it's just two.
Oh, one of the things that I wanted to mention, and I didn't, early on in the the opener, I guess you would say, when he was consulting her in her apartment, and a lot of times there was dialogue between Christian and Danny. I did notice that Ari angled the camera just perfectly to where you could see like Christian in a mirror, and they were having dialogue between each other. So you were focused on Danny sitting by the mirror, and you could see Christian talking to her through the mirror. I thought that was really cool.
So was this when she was upset with him but not telling her about the trip that he was going to take? When they got back and they kind of got into it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they were having dialogue between each character. However, it was weird, but it was like mirror image.
Yeah. Which is funny
Again,
because
it comes down to good filmmaking.
right, yeah, it plays into the fact that also we understand that these people are toxic and they're not in a healthy relationship, and you can kind of tell that they're not even willing to commit to an argument. They kind of like pass it up, like it's like you could tell it was starting to build to an argument, but they're trying to play like safety, like no, I don't want to argue about it, and I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. And Danny was backtracking, like she was upset, but then as soon as he said something about leaving, she needed that person with her. She did not need him to leave, so she would backtrack on her, which she was on the right. She was in the right. Like you could have at least told me about it. Like you didn't have to just hide it from me and this and that. Which you know why he did, because he planned on breaking up with her before. So but you could tell like she just like, no, I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be alone. I'm sorry. Well, let's restart. I wasn't trying to cause an argument. This is that. So she backtracked, which that was a neat little scene to kind of build up their already toxic relationship, and what we were getting from those two and the situation they were in. So yeah, I didn't notice the mirror thing. That's pretty cool, man. Good shout out.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I believe that's all I got, really.
Yeah, I skimmed through most of mine, but yeah, I hit the main points and what I wanted to portray in this discussion we're gonna have. The big ones that I wanted to talk about.
You ready to get into?
I think so. Yeah, I think so, man.
All right.
You want me to go first, or you going first?
It don't matter. You want me to go first? I might
You can.
surprise you.
You can if you want. Yeah, I'm curious about it because I know this is a first time watch for you, so I'm kind of curious what you're thinking.
Well, initially I put four stars. But after watching it a second time and everything, and really appreciating the camera angles and stuff, and honestly, I can't point out one thing that I didn't like about this film. You know how, I mean, I go into a film critiquing the piss out of it, and yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I can't, and me, I'm big on strong female characters.
Yeah,
I'm big on character development. This film has plenty of that, mainly with one character, and then ultimately, it's also a character study. It truly is on Danny. This, like I told you before, this film kind of made me think about it for a long time. One thing I like about Ari's films is it makes me think. I like that. It engages you as an audience member just that much more. And I couldn't sit down and definitively say that I didn't like anything about this film. This film was perfect in all aspects, in my opinion, all the way down from the beautiful editing, wonderful camera making, or the cinematography, everything, even the way this film was written, um, everything about this film, 5 stars.
Nice, dude. Wow, I'm surprised.
Yeah,
Holy shit.
5 stars, dude.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. Awesome, man. Yay. I'm psyched, dude. Hell yeah. That's awesome,
yeah.
dude.
It's a really good film.
I'm all about it. Yeah, you get completely sucked in from the minute this movie opens up. You're right there with Danny, and she's struggling to get her family on the phone, and you're just like, oh, dude, you just get so attached to the characters. You just go along for the ride, and you're like a surrogate through them, which is supposed to be the case anyway. You're
Yeah.
supposed to follow your protagonist, and you're supposed to feel for them. And if the movie's doing what it's supposed to be doing, you're supposed to feel for them. You're supposed to be on their side.
Hmm.
And in this case, you do see that. You do see a woman broken and just defeated by feeling abandoned and feeling lost and not having a family anymore and just feeling alone and it's tragic. Ari has mastered the art of tragic and just hopelessness and all this stuff. I love like dour, dreadful stuff. I mean, it's been proven. I've said it many times on this podcast. Um, I like movies that have that, and this movie does, and has it so far with Ari's 2 films. It has it masterfully done. So I can't really say for sure what else I would tweak about it and everything like that. I could tweak maybe the length of the film a little bit. It is a long one. It probably will turn some people off.
But with that being said, it is a very engaging film
It's
because
no, I 100%
as an
agree.
audience member, you're engaged.
I 100% agree with you. I understand that some people have that shorter attention span as audience members, and they can't handle a lengthier film like this.
Hmm.
And some people, believe it or not, won't be engaged in this. I know people that have critiqued it and said that they, I'm not in it with the characters. The characters do feel like stereotypes and this and that, and I get that because Mark feels like a stereotype, and that I understand that. I get it. But like I said, man, I love this film as well. I do. I between the two, I'm still a bigger Hereditary fan. It's my favorite of his two for sure. But I still shot composition, camera work, fantastic. The acting is great. I kind of wish you get a little bit more out of Danny, especially toward the end where she's just like, she's just relegated to, just being. You've seen the meme, right, with her in the giant bushel of flowers and stuff like that, and they've used that. Like they used that with Bernie Sanders. They put him in that, and it's hilarious. Like they memed the hell out of that. So I kind of wish I got a little bit more out of her toward the end, like some feel, because I mean, the last shot you can see her gradually start smiling and
Hmm.
accepting everything, and as her boyfriend is burning alive in this makeshift contraption, and it's taunting. It really is, man. It's terrifying, and it's really fucked up at the end of the day, because at the end of the day he was still a aloof kind of like jerk, but did he really deserve to be burned alive? I don't know. Like that's kind of fucked up.
That's why I said the poor bastard, because
Yeah. And that's coming from me being like, I love dark, twisted endings and shit like that. So, but at the end of the day, he was just a guy with no backbone. Like, I guess burning alive was his comeuppance. But yeah, dude, not to drag it out anymore. I do like Hereditary a tad bit more.
okay,
But I am going to give this film 4.5 out of 5.
okay,
I can't say it's a perfect film, but it's damn close, dude.
yeah,
For me anyway, it's damn close.
yeah.
I,
And see that the difference is like with Hereditary, I loved Hereditary as well. Hereditary was a great film. Um, there was just some minor detail that I didn't care for, me personally. And that's the thing with critiquing these films and giving these star ratings.
Yeah, it's hard,
You
man.
know,
Like, I can't. Like I said, I'm more of a field. Like I can't. I do love. I do love both films. I really do. I
Mhm.
like Hereditary just a tad bit more. I think to me it resonates with me just a little bit more. That whole
Yeah.
story, the way it plays out, the acting. I mean, it's masterclass acting.
Oh
Tony
yeah.
Collette already talked about that, and the rest of the cast too. I mean, they're fantastic in that.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, the acting. They have it on the acting front. Like it's brilliant. So, but I
Yeah.
mean, I love both these films. I've championed both these films to even you. I've said, dude, you got to watch these movies, man. I think you'll dig them. And
Yeah.
I'm so glad we were able to finally cover them on the podcast.
I'm ready for Ari to make more films, to tell you the truth.
I am too. I can't wait for his next film. I know. I don't think it's going to be fully a horror film, but at this point, the man's just a brilliant filmmaker. I just want to see what he does. At
Hmm.
the end of the day,
Yeah, definitely.
let's see more from him, and then hopefully he'll do another horror film fairly soon.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, we talk about, filmmakers like John Carpenter, stuff like that. And, I mean, they've had their time, and they're great, artists as far as, cinematography and, everything. We love all their films, the older, I guess you would say the older generation and some of the newer generation of filmmakers. Um, I think we're stepping foot into something a little different here, though, where you can take this film and almost take it as a drama in a sense with
Oh
horror aspects,
yeah,
you know?
which
But
Ari always does in his films. His films are when they've coined the term elevated horror, like his films like this and Hereditary and even The Witch and movies like this are perfect for that term. Like they make you
yeah.
think. I've seen The Witch, I've seen Hereditary, Midsommar, and to your point, like you said, man, I think about these films after I watch them. They
Hmm.
stick with me. They don't leave. It's not like an experience where I'm like, oh, that was fun. Okay, on to the next thing. No, they
Yeah.
stick with me for a little while. I think about them.
Yeah.
That's what they're. That's why you get the term elevated horror. There's so many films that fall into. We are now in a almost a renaissance of elevated horror films. There's a lot coming out now. Like Last Night in Soho from Edgar Wright. That's another one. There's a movie called The Night House. I mean, there's so many. Oh, Saint Maud. There's so many, dude. Now,
Hmm.
so many masterclass like elevated horror films that are coming out, and it's really cool to see. It Follows for me is still another one that really bridged the gap and was really like at the forefront of all that for the longest time because it came out a while ago. It came out in 2014. So
Something
at,
like that.
at that time, I mean, we weren't experiencing the renaissance of elevated horror like we are now. And one of my personal favorites is Black Coat's Daughter. I think that movie is fucking modern day masterpiece as well, man. But they
Yeah.
all
Hmm.
fit that bill of being elevated horror. So I dig it. I love this thinking horror. Like it resonates with me. I love it, dude.
Yeah.
So to see it coming out and to see us experiencing this like renaissance of horror films, it just warms my heart.
Definitely. 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 Well, man, you ready to land it?
Yeah, dude, I think I am. I think so. I think we've covered all we can about this bad boy, and it's. I'm so glad you got a chance to watch him, though, man.
Oh yeah,
So
definitely.
happy, so happy.
I'm glad we finally covered them.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah. Well, folks, we appreciate you listening and watching our review for Midsommar from 2019. We hope we didn't ruin anything for you. If we did, sorry. Go watch it. It's still awesome. Um, folks, I didn't mention in the beginning of the podcast, but if you're not part of our Facebook group, make sure you head over and check us out on our Facebook group. Just type in on search engine Midnight Monster Corner Podcast. We'll pop up. Ask to join. We'll let you in, and come be a part of the discussion. Share memes and Just have a good time in there. We have a good time in there.
It's all about having a good time.
That's it, man. That's it.
Chill vibes and having a good time.
But with that, make sure that you tell your friends and like, share, subscribe, and we hope you guys enjoyed. Tony, you got anything you want to add?
I just want to always say we appreciate you guys, the listeners. You guys rock. You're amazing. We love you. Thank you for helping us do what we do. Your feedback and your continued support is always important to us, and we really appreciate it. I never want to be remiss without saying that. So thank you guys, 100%. You guys are awesome. We love the interaction in the groups. We love the discussions getting brought up in the groups. I mean, like I said, keep it up, man. We love seeing it. Also, you know, I'm going to make a point to, if I do pick up more films, I'm going to put some codes out there in the group too, because I don't really do anything with the codes. So be on the lookout for that. I just posted the new Scream code not too long ago. So more of those will be posted up as I'm picking up films for the collection. So be on the lookout for that. Jump on it as soon as you can. And please, if you do grab it, please let everybody know, so other people aren't like in the dark about it and they're like, oh shit, no one claimed it. No one said that they claimed it. So just, yeah, if you can, that's all I ask. Just let everybody know you got it, and then we'll be good.
Definitely. And I need to get into that, posting more of those as well.
I love doing that, man. It helps us. It helps me find a way to give back to our community and get them involved in some of the films that we're even covering. I mean, some of these, you know, we have been on a recent roll of covering newer films. So even still, like, if I can get, you know, a code out there for somebody to watch a film, like that's awesome, dude. I'm all about it. So
definitely. Well, folks, we appreciate you.
we do. You guys are awesome.
Later, guys.
Later.